We head up to Washington, D.C. now, where Senator Ron Johnson, I imagine a lot of people are heading to the lakes up north in Wisconsin for this time of year when it is spectacular. But you are working, Senator, and we had you in studio a couple of weeks ago breaking down the big, beautiful bill. And you changed your vote at the last minute or signed on with the bill at the last minute. What is the latest? What can you tell us about where we are compared to when we talked with you on air last?
Well, guys, yeah, I should be trolling for walleye right now, but we're here working on the big, beautiful bill. Again, as far as the primary components of this bill, I'm fully supportive of, right? We're going to make sure that we don't have a massive automatic tax increase. That's about $4 trillion of the score, by the way. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to default on our debt. Unfortunately, Democrats left these enormous messes, the open border, so we have to provide funding for border, the wars, we have to provide funding for defense, massive four-year average deficit of $1.9 trillion. The 7 years before the pandemic, our deficit averaged $660 billion. 4 years afterwards, under Biden and Democrats, $1.9 trillion. So again, it is true the House provided us with spending reduction, about historic spending reduction, about $1.4 trillion. Senate actually has about 1.6. Our difference in our scores is we make sure the business expensing provisions are permanent versus shorter term. So that's the main difference between the House and the Senate. Now, we're hearing from the House they're not real happy, and we're short from their math somewhere around $600 billion. Rick Scott has an excellent amendment, which was not included in the base bill, and that was really the sticking point on the motion to proceed. We got the commitment of the leadership to not only offer an amendment vote, but whip it and try and make sure this thing gets passed. I'm hoping President Trump helps us get this thing passed, because that, depending on the date, so here's what the amendment does. It doesn't kick anybody off of Medicaid. None. What it does is it stops enrollment into the Obamacare addition to Medicaid, which threatens traditional Medicaid for disabled children, for example. So at some point in time in the future, we're debating that, you just don't allow states to enroll them under the $9 to $1 match. I mean, I think you guys realize that, right? For a disabled child, for every dollar the state puts into Medicaid, the federal government matches it for $1.33. But for the Obamacare single, working age, able-bodied, childless adults, for every dollar the state puts in, the federal government kicks in $9. That was a huge incentive for states to game the system, provider taxes, provider fees, which aren't health care, by the way, but they get reimbursed $9 for every dollar the state kicks in there. So again, it's a financing scam. We're trying to end that because it's causing the outflow of hundreds of billions of dollars out of the federal government. We don't have the money. So that alone could fill about $500 billion of that gap if we give states until the first part of 2029 to end the scam. I mean, very reasonable proposal. Most Republicans support it in the Senate. We've got some holdouts, and that's where we need leadership to pressure people. There are other things in the bill, some extraneous tax credits that, when we're $37 trillion in debt, do we really have to add tax credits for this, that, and the other thing? So again, I think this is entirely doable. It's going to take the president to weigh in. It's going to take Republican leadership to make sure that we can satisfy the House requirements. And then when all's said and done, this would be a huge achievement, repealing at least the most damaging part of Obamacare, which was the addition to Medicaid, which puts at risk the Medicaid for disabled children. I mean, do you think it's fair that for a disabled child, the federal government kicks in $1.33, but for a working age person that should be working, getting health care from their employer, we provide $9 for everyone? It's just out of whack.
Senator Johnson, people are reading about, I think many of them, if not for the first time, it's certainly a helpful reminder about the Senate parliamentarian, Elizabeth McDonough, who has been in this role since 2012. This is not an elected office. It's pretty fascinating, actually, right? This started sometime around, the 1920s, 1930s. So it's about 100 years ago. There's somebody who helps with administrative procedures, rules within the Senate, I guess, like when you guys are allowed to have bathroom breaks or I don't know, whatever it is. And now there's somebody who is stripping out parts of the bill, like the NFA, National Firearms Act, and silencers no longer being an NFA item because the parliamentarian. What is going on here? And by the way, talk to me about that NFA silencers or suppressors issue.
Well, I believe that was included. So this is incredibly complex. I mean, this all has to do with the Budget Act sets up this reconciliation process where we can reduce mandatory spending or cut taxes or increase taxes with a simple majority vote. Because of that process, Senator Robert Byrd had rules in terms of what would qualify for that, what wouldn't qualify. From my standpoint, the parliamentarian has been pretty even-handed. When Democrats wanted to include things that were more policy than budget, she didn't allow it. She's done the same thing here. By the way, we modified things that she was going to kick out. We listened to her instructions. We got it back in. So I realize that ends up being kind of a bone of contention. What we don't want to do is eliminate the filibuster. I know a lot of people want us to, but the filibuster has protected us from all kinds of massive Democrat spending programs because in the minority, Republicans have had the right to block some of that stuff. So, I mean, I realize at the moment, it's like, get rid of that so we can get everything we want. That would be pretty short-sighted thinking. But again, we've got a way to do this. You know, Rick Scott knows healthcare like nobody else. Okay, brilliant proposal. Doesn't kick anybody off Medicaid, just ends the Medicaid scam a few years in the future. Gives states, gives providers a chance to readjust how they're budgeting. Basically, states and providers are basing their budget off of this financing scam. That has to end. We simply can't afford it.
Where do we stand now? I know that Chuck Schumer made the entire bill be read aloud in the Senate chamber, and that took a long time. There's talk that Trump wants to get this thing signed on July 4th. You're in the Senate right now. What does the time frame look like for everybody out there, and where do we go from here?
Well, we're in the vote-a-rama, so it's unlimited amendments, so I can't predict how long it'll go. Again, we're in very close conversation with conservatives in the House. They're telling us this product right now is dead on arrival. I actually take them seriously. You know, we kind of ignored their formula, their math. They looked at this differently than we did. We're, I think, about $650 billion short. You know, from my standpoint, I'm fine at satisfying their requirement. Again, use Rick Scott's amendment, end enrollment for new Obamacare $9 to 1 match. Those guys can go under standard Medicaid, get reimbursed the same things as a disabled child. Okay, do that. Start of 2029. That saves us about $500 billion. Get rid of some of these extraneous measures, some of these new tax credits that just some Republican senators thought, oh, this is an important thing. You know, we're $37 trillion in debt. This is not a time for additional tax credits for junking up our tax code further. So I would have no problem taking a look at this and saying, okay, no, we can reduce the deficit by $650 billion. Not a problem. Again, politically, you got constituencies, you got people that apparently like to spend money, like to offer new tax credits, refuse to do what they promised to do. You know, repeal Obamacare, rip it out by the root and branch. This is just one root that is probably the most damaging aspect of Obamacare, and we've got Republicans now that aren't willing to do it. This is where we need presidential leadership to say, honor your promise, get that additional deficit relief, get this passed in the Senate, get this passed in the House, and then we really will end up with one big, beautiful bill.
Outstanding stuff, Senator Ron Johnson. We appreciate all the work you're doing, and keep us updated. You can hop on anytime.
Have a great day.
You too.
Product innovation is critical in business. It gives you that competitive advantage. Rapid Radio's walkie-talkies are an incredible example of this. You see, you remember walkie-talkies probably even from when you were a kid. You had those little walkie-talkies, you press the button, you could talk to a friend somewhere. Well, now imagine those many decades later with all of the latest souped-up technology out there, and that's what you have with Rapid Radios. They don't require any setup. You just pull these walkie-talkie push-to-talk Rapid Radios out of the box, you press a button, and boom, you are good to go. One-touch connection. Now, what can you use this for? It's perfect to talk with one employee or 200 employees that are on the go all at the same time. Also, if you have aging parents, you just want to keep a close ear on, if you will, you give them some of these. Remember, this works across the country. This isn't just like somebody down the street. Nationwide LTE coverage, and Rapid Radios are 100% private, no monthly fees or subscriptions. Also, it's a great idea, as my family found out, to have these as part of your preparation plan, because Rapid Radios can come through for you during really serious storms, natural disasters, when there's a lot of comms that are out, Rapid Radios is a great option. Go to rapidradios.com, save up to 60%, get free UPS shipping from Michigan, and use code RADIO for an extra 5% off. That's code RADIO when you go to rapidradios.com. Use code RADIO for a total of 65% off.